everybody, how are you? Kelley Brophy here. Today is Thursday, and I hope that everybody did well through the crazy little storm that we had. I'm sure it was pretty stressful at times, especially if you lost your electricity, and that's very understandable. But I hope that now that the storm is over, you're feeling like you're getting back to normal, and that you have all the help that you need in your home and in your life to feel like you're safe and that things are, you've got your electricity back, etc. I thought that I would do a couple of my sessions with you on some things that are very important to our health that we really do take for granted. And one of those things is our sleep. So my next couple of videos are going to be in regards to our sleep habits and what we can do to improve them. There seems to be a very common belief that we think that we can get by on less sleep than what our doctors and what all of the research recommends, which really should be around 8 hours a night of good solid sleep. And a lot of you are probably laughing right now saying, well, I'm lucky if I get 3, or I'm lucky if I get 5. And the next couple of sessions on sleep are going to be to let you know good things about getting sleep, and then unfortunately bad things about not getting enough sleep and what it can do to us. Because we all really want to shoot for that 8 hours a night. We don't want to take a passive stance on our sleep, such as, oh, I get by on 5, or I feel great when I get 4. We really want to change that train of thought and change it to our believing that we need 8, and this is what these sessions are going to help us with, and also to have a toolkit or a toolbox of things that we can use to help us reach that goal of getting our 8 hours of sleep every night. I want to point out something that Jen is going to add into this YouTube video below, and that is a YouTube link to a gentleman that studies sleep, and he has a sleep center. And this is where I have learned so much from this gentleman. He's a wonderful author, and he's a researcher, he's a scientist, and his entire life is dedicated to studying sleep. So please take a look at that video. And I also want to let you know that in Matt's video, he also mentions that at his sleep study, they're using a particular kind of treatment. Well, we're not going to be using that treatment here, just so that you know. I'm not at all trying to encourage that. But I just want you to get a lot of the knowledge that Matt has to share about the benefits of getting a good sleep, and also the disbenefits of not sleeping enough. Alrighty, so that being said, I've mentioned that we can't take our sleep lightly. We can't take for granted that we're not sleeping a full 8 hours, and we really can't accept not sleeping a full 8 hours. If we're not sleeping 8 hours, and really be honest with yourself, you might go to bed at one time and get out of bed at another time, but how much of that time is actually spent sleeping? Are you tossing and turning? Are you worried? What else is there that's going on that's preventing you from getting a good night's sleep? So be very honest with yourself about how much of your time in bed is actually spent in a slumber. When we don't sleep, when we don't get 8 hours, so many things in our lives, they go awry. They know as a fact that during daylight savings time, when we lose an hour of sleep, that the rate of cardiovascular events and deaths increases immensely that next day, just by losing 1 hour of sleep in the general population. And the brighter side of that is that at the other opposite end of the daylight savings time, when we gain the hour, that the cardiovascular event rates drop and hospitalizations go down. So that's such clear evidence right there that all of us can understand, because we've all lived through the daylight savings time if we live in Taunton, Massachusetts. We may not feel it on a grand scale. We may be like, oh, I'm a little bit tired because I lost that hour. But truly it affects our body on such a deep level that it's very, very unhealthy for us. So when we don't sleep, we might not be able to lose weight. We might not be able to retain newly acquired information. We might not be able to remember people's names. So little things like that, which are actually very big things, can be extremely impacted by not getting enough sleep. If I mention like the memory part, if you are taking in information, say you're going to take a class and you're getting in new information, if you are tired when you take that class and you don't sleep well the night after, the night that you take that class, then the chance of you retaining all of that information drops by a minimum of 40%, which is a real lot of unstored data that you would hope to retain. So how that affects us is that we are unable to retain new information if we are tired when we take it in, but also if we don't sleep well that night. So we want to be sure that our new information coming in stays in our memory banks, and the solidifying those memory banks is actually getting a great night's sleep the night after we've learned something, the night of learning something. So why would that matter to us? What if we're not learning? What if we're not taking classes and we don't feel like we're taking in a lot of new information, but you probably are on a daily basis and maybe just don't realize it? Well, they've discovered that there's a link between lack of sleep and cognitive decline, including Alzheimer's disease. They used to think that the two were just kind of, okay, well, we're older, so we don't really need enough sleep. We don't really need as much sleep as we used to, so that's kind of waning. And also we're older, so our cognitive decline is kind of expected. But now there's an absolute link between the two, that those two things are interconnected. And when you watch Matt's video, you will also see that he provides the research for that information. So it's really, really important that we sleep well for our immune system, for our psychological state, for our being able to manage stress and handle stress better, for so many different aspects of our life, for even having patience with people around us and children. Our appetite changes when we're tired. There's just so many things that do not go well for us when we do not sleep. So I want you to be really honest in your sleep assessment and, tell yourself honestly how many hours a night you think that you're getting of good, solid sleep. Based on that, let's talk about now some changes that we can make. And I'm going to assume that most of us, I've done classes before with 20 to 30 people in them. And when I ask the question about sleep and we really talk about what a good sleep entails, that almost all of the people in the class are deprived of sleep. I'm talking like if there's 20 people, that 19 of them are nowhere near getting a full 8 hours of sleep. So I'm going to assume that most people that are watching this video are also in the same boat with all of us, right? That none of us are really getting the amount of sleep that we should. Very few people, I should say. But we need to. It's very important that we do. So that being said, we have many people in the world that are short on their time that they need to be sleeping in order to repair their body, restore their brains, restore their sense of joy. We really do need this. So we're going to start learning how to do that by making it a priority each day, making small changes each day that will help us reach that goal. So one of the things that we can do, that most people can do anyhow, is to reduce the temperature in your bedroom by a couple of degrees. So we certainly don't want you to sleep in a cold room by any stretch of the imagination, but it should be a little bit cooler than the rest of the rooms in your home. So whether you are able to do that via a thermostat or a fan, or maybe open your window even just a little bit. Certainly, you probably can't do that in the winter time, but try to get your sleep temperature around the mid 60s in your bedroom, mid to high 60s in your bedroom, as opposed to maybe your home is 70 or 75 degrees. We want you to walk into your bedroom and feel just a little bit cooler than the rest of your home. Or maybe if you have a smaller apartment or a smaller area, you can turn the heat down for the entire area, just by a couple of degrees before you go to sleep. So that's one thing that can really help somebody improve their sleep. Another thing that's proven to help increase your sleep is to get rid of any blue lights in your room. And actually, most lights are best to get rid of, but especially the blue light. Like if you've got a television or an LED screen or anything like that that's in your bedroom, if you've got a clock, you can turn that clock around so it's not facing you. If you have a blue light on your television, you can cover just the window, not the actual light bulb, but the window up with a piece of tape so that it's not shining. They also recommend that you reduce your exposure to blue light at least 2 hours before you go to bed, because that blue light can have long-term effects on our sleep cycle. Another thing that can help us is that we want to set a specific time every day that we are going to get into our bed, and we want to prepare for that time as well. So like in my situation, I have to work on my sleep every day, and I've been working on my sleep every day for years, and I will always work on my sleep, and I enjoy it. It's definitely part of my routine every single day. So let's say that my goal is to be in bed by 9 p.m. Probably at around 5 p.m., I start planning my sleep already. I don't put aside all of my activities, but I start thinking about it. So if I reduce the temperature in my bedroom or opened up my window, is my bed nicely made and looks comfortable, if that's what you like, to have a nicely made bed, and looks comfortable for me to sleep in? Do I have the correct pillows for myself? And we're going to talk about pillows in a second. Have I stopped drinking caffeine, which should really stop by 11 or 12 o'clock that day, if any. You can certainly try reducing your caffeine even before that if you're struggling to reach your sleep time. So you want to start really planning in a very happy way as well. Planning your sleep out several hours before you're actually going to hit the hay. And start thinking about, is the room prepared for you? Do you have pretty good darkness in your room? Definitely with no blue light. Am I going to be able to be in bed by the same time? And have I stopped drinking caffeine? Is my bed pretty? And I don't mean pretty like especially for the guys. It doesn't have to be like frilly, but it needs to be pretty and inviting for yourself, like whatever you consider to be beautiful to go to sleep in. It should be very ambient for your preferences. And we really want to do this every day. So then once we get into bed, be sure that you have very comfortable clothes on, or pajamas or whatever. If you don't want to wear anything, as long as that's okay in your house, that's great. But we really need to find what works for you. So experiment with that. Some people like socks on, socks off. Some people have to have one leg sticking out. I get that whole thing. I've gone through the whole gamut. So you really want to find something very comfortable for you to sleep in. And then your pillows also have to be comfortable for you. And here's what I wanted to bring up specifically about pillows. They have come so far with creating pillows that are good for people in different situations and different bodies and different life stages too. They know for sure that if you have acid reflux or GERD, G-E-R-D, if you get heartburn at night, that you could raise or have somebody else do this for you. You can raise the head of your bed just a little bit using risers that are made for this. Don't try just putting something under there. They actually have small 1 to 2 inch risers that can go underneath the legs of your bed, at the head of your bed, to raise that, to help reduce any acid reflux that you feel at night. And also, if you're a side sleeper, that sleeping on your left side actually arranges your stomach so that the acid reflux isn't quite as, it's not quite as easy for it to affect your throat. So you can use something like that, a technique like that. They also have pillows that allow for they have a tunnel that allows for the arm to travel through, which I think is pretty genius. After all these years, somebody improved on the pillow that way. So it looks like a regular pillow, and then underneath it is a hole that goes from one side to the other. So you can slide either this part of your arm under, or you might be the kind of person that likes to sleep with your upper arm underneath your head. But either way, you can arrange this pillow around your body. Personally, for me, different pillows made an enormous change in how I slept. And it was like, boom, overnight. Different pillows affected my sleep in different ways. They also have pillows that can go between somebody's knees. And what that does is it can separate your knees and offer them support. So if you're laying on your side and you put your knee pillow between your knees, it keeps your hips level, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. Nobody would really think that could keep you awake, but if you have sore hips, it really can make a difference, because the hip is going to come straight, the upper leg is going to come straight out from the hip, from the ball and socket. So that's a really wonderful pillow to think about trying. And then another pillow that I find is amazing. They are circular pillows, almost like the little pillows that you would have on your couch, say like a neck support pillow, but they're long. They come up to like 64 inches. And they are made out of like a microfiber, so they're extremely giving. And these pillows can be moved in whatever shape the person needs on that particular day. If you're like me, different things hurt or feel uncomfortable on different nights, and I find that long pillow that can be shaped helps me immensely. That one also can fit between my knees, but it can also wrap around my arms so that I can get my arm underneath. I can get back support and neck support from a pillow like that. So the pillow can also really help as well. Reducing caffeine, make sure that you do not have any caffeine past 11 in the morning or noontime at the latest, so that it's still not in your system. And find yourself a little ritual, create a little ritual for yourself. And I really do recommend using warm tea at night, and certainly not a caffeinated tea, but a decaffeinated tea that might even be made for sleep. They really do work. And the warm tea is very relaxing, and when you're sipping that tea, I highly recommend trying to really beam down. And it's going to sound silly when I tell you to really analyze your tea, but I really would love to feel like part of our problem with not being able to fall asleep is that we're not being loving and caring enough to ourselves, and we're not being in that moment, So getting in that moment can be achieved by focusing on one thing, and allowing other things in the room to kind of fall away. So if you're making a cup of tea, and it's definitely not caffeinated, and quite possibly it may have, something specifically for sleep in the mixture, like a lavender or chamomile is another one that's very popular in tea bags. And, as you're making the tea, just take a look down at the tea and watch how the colors start to change in the tea as the tea is brewing. So you've poured your hot water into the cup with the tea bag, and just take a look inside that cup while it's unfolding, and while the tea bag is starting to release all of its actual tea into the water, into the hot water. And that alone can help beam us down enough and bring us into the moment and bring us aware of our own body and being aware of our needs, which is that we definitely do need sleep. One other thing that can be very helpful to a good night's sleep is our breathing. Without breathing well, and I put that well in there very intentionally, because of course without breathing we wouldn't be here, but we can breathe poorly forever, for many years. I know people that have been breathing terribly, and they lived until they were 80. Did they have a lot of other little complications in their lives? They really did when I look at it. Did they stay healthy as long as they lived? Not really. So our breathing, improved quality of breathing can really, really help us a lot. But specifically around sleep time, if we pay attention to our breathing for just a couple of minutes before we're ready to fall asleep or before we want to fall asleep, it can make such a huge difference in the amount of time that it takes us to finally doze off. So if we were to follow a little breathing pattern that it's very generic, but it's a great pattern and it's very easy to follow. And even if you just follow this very simple breathing pattern, it can really help to oxygenate your body enough to bring your heart rate down and to bring your stress level down. So let's say, for example, we were going to inhale through our nose. We're going to inhale through our nose for 4 seconds. So we'll start with an empty set of lungs, right? So we're just going to relax and exhale very gently. And let's inhale for the count of 4 together. And now let's hold for 4. And then let's exhale for 6. And hold for 2. And then inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. And hold for 2. And even just doing that maybe 5 or 6 times after you've gotten into your bed, your nice comfortable bed, even doing that 5 or 6 times will most likely help you relax enough to fall asleep sooner. Because there's a lot of different components to not getting a good night's sleep. One is how long do we lay there in the beginning of the night when we first lay down. The other one is how many times do I wake up in the middle of the night? And then a third one is when I do wake up, am I able to go back to sleep? So over the next couple of weeks, we're gonna talk a lot about this. And if you have any questions, you can shoot an email to Jen. I'm sure that you guys know how to reach her via email, and I'm happy to address them here. But please start to believe that getting a better night's sleep is so much better for you than not getting a good night's sleep. Also, that not getting a good night's sleep is very detrimental to your health, physically and mentally. And 3, that we have control over our sleep. And it's probably not going to happen overnight, no pun intended. It's going to be through changing our habits together, learning what works for each individual person, but really setting a goal to improve our sleep together. And please watch Matt's video. Jen's going to put it underneath this video here. Please watch it, and it really is amazing, and getting a good night's sleep can change your life in such positive ways. And I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next week. Thank you.